Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, booping Godzillasaurus right there. And today we're going to be doing a double figure review. That's right, 2-in-1. So, what do we have today? We have the Bandai Banpresto Enshrined Series Godzilla Rodan 1964 from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and the Godzillasaurus version A. Both of them are the version A's because there are reprints. The Godzillasaurus 2023 from Godzilla Minus One, or pre-rated Godzilla. I know or Odo Island, whatever. I don't understand why they don't call him the Godzillasaurus, because he's obviously an updated version of the Godzillasaurus we saw back in 1991, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. He gets nuked, turns into Godzilla. Is that not literally what this thing is? It's Godzillasaurus, and for consistency's sake, because that's what I've been calling him the whole time, that's what I'm going to be referring to him for the entire video. So, no pre-rated Godzilla, just Godzillasaurus. Anyway, so, I was kind of out shopped, but then I saw these two, then decided why not snag these two, and yeah, found them pretty much well. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say, but this isn't like a line that I had necessarily planned to collect. I got the Godzilla Minus One black and white version, the minus color variant, because that wasn't a lot. But with these two, these were unique purchases I got also the same week as the Monster X Birth version. So without further ado, let's go ahead and review both of these, starting with Rodan. If, and that is an if, my memory does serve me correctly, Rodan here is not only the 64 design, but essentially the larger whole of the Showa era design. While the 56 Rodan did have different design elements, mainly because it was a different version of the character, technically being the parent of this one, if I remember correctly, this Rodan was the one that was kind of carried throughout the entirety of the Godzilla films, all the way up to Destroy All Monsters, I believe. Because I don't think he appeared at least as most as he did in the 70s movies. So essentially, this is the 60s Rodan, but yeah, it's essentially just based off the Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster design, which for the face, he has quite a bit going on. We have, of course, the eyes, which are much like the movie, big, bulged out, looking off in two different directions. Kind of reminds me of like a bulldog or a pug with like the wrinkly skin and the skin tones and everything else. Glossy eyes and kind of see my reflection, which is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Kind of looks like Funko Pop eyes. I know there's a Funko Pop Rodan, but I kind of stopped collecting the Funko Pop Godzillas because there were so many of them. Having said that, the eyes themselves have a nice shiny finish, as well as a bit of more wrinkles around the skin. The eyebrows are very enlarged. They look really nice. The more bags on his eyes. This guy does not, much like me, get a lot of sleep, so maybe that's why he's constantly appearing in these movies. Just venting his frustration. But you do get a lot of the nice, intricate detail. Just looks really nice, all the bumps and crevices. Very, wrinkly skin, too. I'm pretty sure that's more of a product of the suit because of how wrinkly it was. But having said that, it still looks really nice. We had the little tusks right here, which are painted. At first, because of the way my room was lit, I thought only one of them was. Nope, turns out both of them are. And they are painted pretty basically. No amount of, dramatic overbleedage, maybe a bit there. But again, that's kind of nitpicking. Looks very nice. The beak here has a very nice, shiny, kind of smooth finish. With the teeth here, yes, you can see the teeth. Painted in gray. Doesn't have the mouth open, but has a very long jawline, damn. Of course, Rodan is a bird, so makes sense for him to have such an enlarged beak. Here for the horns on the head, two of them, of course. Maybe could have used some dry brush or some wash to help differentiate it. But for what you do get, they have some pretty much basic, kind of cone shape, not really cone, but almost like the bottom of a banana just hanging from a tree or something. I don't know, I'm just kind of making up stuff. Or they kind of look like walrus tusks. You can't unsee that now, can you? But yeah, not really all that pointy. Looks pretty well, at least from the back. Not too much in the way in terms of detail here. Do get a bit of it, but nothing like overly worth kind of like being hyped about. Here for the stomach, honestly, kind of looks more like Anguirus than anything. More the kind of like line work and the scales. Very, very organized here. Have all the different spikes, 5 rows in all, then they kind of like clutter together at the bottom and the top. More towards the bottom, I'd say, because the top is just like one extra row, then the other ones kind of like start in increments. So yeah, again, not too spiky here. Really pressing my fingers down, not too much. For the talons or the feet, we have quite a bit of detail. Very nice. You're gonna have to forgive the cat fur because I do live with cats and there's no way to get rid of it. Unless if I were to get rid of the cat, which I'm not going to do because I love my fuzzy little friends. Anywho, so we have all of this nice detail. And again, it does look really nice with the bumps and crevices. The claws here look really nice. Have a bit of like detail work as well. You can kind of see some like mild kind of like line work, but it's not really like shaded. Kind of wish there was a bit of shading, but it's painted mostly gray or like maybe like a lighter color. Yeah, so let's talk about the wings. Very kind of like puffed up and very folded in. Kind of looks like a robe, but yeah, the 3 fingers on both sides, which are painted the gray, and then you have all like this incredible detail because the wings are very well detailed in this thing. Have all the folds in the skin, really making it look more like the suit. If Bandai does something really good at, is even in a chibi format, they do a really good job at like replicating the suit design, and you get all like this kind of like bumpy kind of like nature to it. Trying to remember what this reminds me of. I'll have to get back to you guys. But for the back of Rodan himself, we have the pretty much the back frill kind of going all the way down to the tail, where his tail would be, theoretically, if the figure wasn't so chunked up together. And for the bases of the wing, you get a mild spray of like a beige type color, which in person you don't really tend to see it. I mean, you do see a spray, but on camera you see it a lot better. But effectively, aside from the bottom, which kind of gives you a pretty cool, almost like a idea for like a logo or something, that'd be kind of cool. But of course, the whole figure is made of hollow vinyl. I got like a 505. There you go. I think that's just the unit production number. But yeah, there's the front, the side, the back, the other side, the top, the bottom again. So for Rodan, I would say that the sculpt and paint is pretty damn good. There's nothing like I absolutely hate about this thing, nothing I really dislike. More like maybe it could use a bit of this or something like that, because in my eyes maybe some like extra washes here, or maybe on the horns, maybe some shading on the claws maybe would have been nice. But again, what can I really expect from a vinyl figure like this? Not a lot in the grand scheme of things. But then again, Minus One Godzilla had quite a bit of dry brush to him. I'll pull him out when we do the comparisons, but he still does have quite a bit going on with him in terms of the detail. So honestly, in terms of the sculpt and paint, I'm gonna have to give Rodan 7.5, I'd say. Again, not overly blowing me away. Pretty good for what you get. Next up, we have the Godzillasaurus. And I have to say, in all honesty, this guy out of the two, in terms of like at least looks, just exceeded my expectations. So for the eyes, automatically we get something really cool. The eyes have a bit of like a matte finish, with the eyes being much more gold in appearance, like really bringing out the golden glory in him. So just really, really eye-popping, especially when you're holding him up to a light. Of course, you got the black people, and the detail for the head just simply is exquisite. I love the detail we have. So much of the bumps, crevices, scales, they're all defined here, and I just love the way that this thing looks. Especially like here for the top of the spikes, we have the multiple rows of spikes getting into the dorsal plates. The sides of the face are very bumpy as well, as you can see. just rubbing your finger on it, you can feel like all the detail. The bottom of the jaw doesn't have as much, but still does have quite a bit. Bottom of the jaw has a kind of like a brown spray to it that leads into the chest, but we'll talk about that in just a sec. And in my opinion, the coolest aspect about the figure is the open mouth, which they didn't have to do this. They could have just kept his mouth shut, but instead they went the extra mile to sculpt and paint every tooth in there. That is amazing. And like you see stuff like the membrane, I'm trying to like really flip it so you see the detail up there, the tongue, the gums. It just looks incredible. And of course you get the chin spikes as well. Moving on down to the neck, more or less the same kind of like spiky nature on the back of the figure. Like that looks really spiky, almost like singular point Anguirus-esque. But you get more of it down here with the detail work, with the neck here. More or less the same kind of like neck lining here with the brown. Trying to like really showcase all angles of this thing. I think those are supposed to be his ears. I think so. You can see just the amount of detail packed in this thing. Arms look pretty sweet too. We have that brown kind of like sprayed onto there, then more of the same base colorization, and the claws are really well painted. Like they have a nice kind of like shiny finish, not overly amount of overbleedage, but still looks rather nice. As you can see here, the elbow spikes, which are present on the final design. Really just trying to again show you the amounts. For the front of the figure, or I guess the more bottom side, whatever, the main body, we have a beautiful orange spray kind of like covering the front half of it. And the chest detail here, you get all like the bumps and crevices here. And then you have the kind of like the pelvis. I think this would proportionally be, because that would technically lead into Godzilla's tail, but it doesn't have it, because it just kind of like goes flat here. So yeah, we have the feet here, which are like really bent in, have the black paint, really well done, painted all the way around, no overbleedage again. Detail here for the legs looks really nice. As you can see, just like a big chunky leg. Now let's talk about the dorsal plates in the back. The dorsal plates here, a little bit on the more basic side, because I kind of would have liked some extra paint or something, maybe like some more brown accents if you're going to apply it to the front of the shoulders. Although then again, that is very chaotic because of how smushed together the figure is. Oh, there's copyright info. Do you want to take a gander there? We have more or less the same detail work going to the sides. Again, it looks very uniform, and I do like that. In the movie, these did swing around a lot, so. And of course, for the tail, it kind of loops up. Doesn't have like the spikes that you'd see on the post-nuked Godzilla, but again, has like a lot of the same kind of like flexibility and detail work at the very least. So here's this side, the Godzillasaurus, front side, this side, the the top, back side, and the bottom. So for the Godzillasaurus, sculpt and paint, beautiful. I do again kind of wish there was some more paint on the back end if you're going to apply most of it to the front. But again, having said that, those are just kind of like, and maybe that could have been a little bit better instead of like, oh man, that's kind of sucky. But I think all in all, this thing is very well done in terms of the actual sculpt and paint, and it's just amazing. Honestly, I think that it's beautiful, really. So overall, I'm gonna have to rate this thing an 8 out of 10 for the sculpt and paint. Very nice. And while I'm here, I don't know if I'm gonna really rate this because it's technically not, but this is something I found on accident. Post unboxing but pre-review, is that I was fiddling with the figure and I noticed that it had some seams. So out of curiosity, I turned it. It has articulation. I did not know that this thing would actually have movement. I did see if Rodan had any movement. He doesn't. And I'm actually going to just double confirm with Godzilla. No, he does not. So this is an exception. I wonder how much of the Enshrined line actually has articulation, but that's pretty damn cool. And so for my first wave of size comparisons, here is, they are compared to the only other enshrined figure that I have in my collection, the Godzilla Minus One minus color variant. And at least putting these two together, it's pretty cool to have a Godzillasaurus and a Godzilla together like that. So my enshrined army is ever growing. And here they are compared next to my other latest purchase, the SH Monsters Godzilla 1995 Birth version. And for some extra Rodan merch in particular, here they are, compared next to the Bandai minifigure Rodan. I forget the name of the line, but they were in blind bags. And here he is compared next to the Rodan 1993 Vinimates. And for another size comparison with more Rodans, here he is compared next to some Rodan Showa era and monsters with the Mezco Destoroyah Monsters Round 1 Rodan and the NECA King of the Monsters Rodan from 2019. Also, as I'm recording this, today is the 7th anniversary of Godzilla King of the Monsters, so yay! And finally, here they are next to my only other Godzilla Minus One figure, the Godzilla Minus One Monster Roar Attack Spitfire version. Forgot the name. So, in summary, what do I think of these two? I think that they're pretty sweet. Again, there's nothing like overly, I guess you could say, actually there is quite a bit of impressive stuff, mainly with the Godzillasaurus, but the Rodan isn't that bad either. Like, I have to commend Bandai for this. Their sculpts are pretty well detailed, all things considered, and the paint, while lacking in some areas, is pretty well done where it is well done. Having said this, I do think that of the two, I do personally prefer the Godzillasaurus over the Rodan. I'm not trying to be biased towards the new movie, maybe because they just have more material to work with than a by now decayed suit versus the actual CG models. But on the contrary, I think that this Rodan is a pretty nice chibi representation of the Showa era Rodan, and I think that you'd walk away a happy camper, assuming that you're going to pay like $25 for these things, I'd say. I'm trying to remember the exact price. But again, I think that there are a lot of things to like about it. If you like what you see with these things, definitely pick them up. They're small, chibi, little vinyl figures that I think will satisfy anyone. So, with my final scores, I want to rate Rodan at 7.5 and Godzillasaurus an 8.5, just because of those extra arm articulations. So, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. And, as of this recording, the celebrations for the Amber's Godzilla show's 10th anniversary begin. Let us begin.